On this channel, I make a lot of videos about gimbals. And while I tend to use them a lot to get stable video footage, there are several things about gimbals that have always really bugged me, to the point that I will often avoid using my gimbal. Well, this is the new DJI RS4 Mini, and it's the first gimbal in a long time that addresses a lot of those things that I find annoying about gimbals. Specifically, there are 6 noteworthy features on the new RS4 Mini, which I'll be sharing in this video. And if you're one of those people who tends to be iffy about gimbals like me, well, this gimbal might make you change your mind. So the first feature I think is really noteworthy is quick auto access locking. Let me show you how it works. So right now I have the gimbal powered on and it's balanced, but if I go ahead and press that power button, you'll notice that the gimbal powers off and right away it locks into position. So now I can go ahead and walk around with my gimbal just like this. I don't have to go in and lock and unlock every axis of the gimbal, which is a thing if you use other bigger gimbals like this. It can be really time consuming. Then you have to remember where each axis is, and yeah, that's something I've always hated about bigger gimbals like this. But now it is so quick and easy to pack my gimbal up when I want to, and also if I want to power it back on, I just hit that power button again, and this part is a little bit slower, but you'll notice that the gimbal unfolds and it balances perfectly at the push of a button. So yeah, to me this is a really big game changer because it means I can get up and shooting really quickly with my gimbal and also pack it up fast when I'm ready to go. Now this auto lock feature is not exclusive to the RS4 Mini, it's also present on the bigger, more expensive RS4. But personally, I don't have the need for a gimbal any larger than this. So let's actually talk about payload capacity next. The RS4 Mini is a lot bigger than the dedicated smartphone gimbals like the DJI OM7, which also just came out recently. But since this RS4 Mini has a bigger load capacity of 4.4 pounds, the RS4 Mini can hold smartphones if you use the dedicated smartphone holder. And it could actually be a better smartphone gimbal for you if you have an exceptionally large phone, or if you want to use your phone alongside heavier accessories like filters or lenses. Now for reference, the OM7 has a 300-gram capacity, and your average smartphone, like the iPhone 16 Pro, weighs 200 grams. So that leaves quite a bit more weight for the physical payload capacity of the RS4 Mini. So beyond phones, you could also put a larger camera, like my full-frame Sony a7 IV and the 20mm f1.8 lens, which is what I'm using right now, but I've even seen people use the 24-70 f2.8 G Master 2 along with a full-frame camera with this gimbal, and that would really be pushing the weight, but I've seen it work. But personally, I would not put a rig any bigger than that on the RS4 Mini. If you need a more robust gimbal, that's when you might want to reach for the larger RS4, which has a payload of either 3 or 4.5 kilos depending on the model that you choose. Now the RS4 Mini also lets you shoot in either horizontal or vertical camera orientation. However, you do have to take the camera out of the gimbal, rotate it 90 degrees, and then tighten it back into place. This is a pretty standard procedure for a gimbal of this size. There aren't many that I know of that let you go from horizontal to vertical shooting and vice versa without taking the camera out. But this whole process is fairly quick and easy with the RS4 Mini. It just takes some practice to get the hang of it. Now speaking of putting the camera in the gimbal, there is a bit of manual balancing that you have to do the first time around. I've always hated this part because you have to be so precise with the positioning of your camera in the gimbal so it'll balance correctly. And the RS4 Mini adds something that can help. a fine-tuning knob on the tilt axis that helps you move the camera forward and backward ever so slightly so you can make minuscule adjustments to your camera's position. It's still an annoying process, but it's a little bit easier this way. The next new feature is an OLED touchscreen display with an improved user interface. Now, personally, I've only used DJI's smartphone gimbals in the past. I love that there's a display at all in this gimbal because the phone gimbals that I've used from DJI don't really have much of an interface at all. The RS4 mini display is very responsive, and parts of the new UI remind me of the DJI Pocket 3s, with its large icons, so you can easily see and select your different parameters. But even though the touchscreen UI has been improved, I really love the inclusion of a physical mode switch on the side of the RS4 Mini's handle. This way, I can select my modes and not have to fiddle with the menu on the touchscreen or continuously mash on buttons trying to figure out my gimbal's mode. When I've got my camera set up on this gimbal, you might notice that there are no cables sticking out of it. Yet, I'm still able to start and stop recording, and even zoom on my camera using the controls in the gimbal's handle. This is all thanks to Bluetooth pairing. Once you pair your camera with the gimbal, it will automatically reconnect each time. So you basically get a camera remote control along with a gimbal stabilizer with the RS4 Mini. And speaking of going wireless, it's also optimal to use a wireless microphone, like the DJI Mic Mini, with your camera if you need upgraded sound. This helps keep your camera kit super lightweight and minimal. Now, another feature that's annoyed me about larger gimbals like this is their slow charging and low battery life. While the RS4 Mini's battery is built in, it is rechargeable, and you can get a 5-hour charge in just 30 minutes, and it fully charges in less than 2 hours. And when it's fully charged, this gimbal has a battery life of 13 hours, which is a 30% increase compared to the previous RS3 Mini. But perhaps the most exciting new feature on the RS4 Mini is the new intelligent tracking module. It's quite similar to the AI tracking mod that also came out for the DJI Osmo Mobile 7, although those tracking mods are not interchangeable. So you can't use the OM7's mod with the RS4 Mini and vice versa. However, they basically do the same thing, in that they enable auto tracking of a subject. So as long as you're roughly 32 feet away or less, the mod, and thus the gimbal and the camera, can track and follow a subject around. So let's see how both gimbals do with their AI tracking modules. I'm going to go ahead and enable gesture controls for both. Now, this might seem gimmicky to some of you, but if you're a solo content creator like I am, or you're trying to film yourself by yourself, that's really when I see this coming in handy. As for controlling it from afar, you can use hand gestures to start and stop recording and also enable tracking. So those are 6 features that I think are noteworthy on the new DJI RS4 Mini gimbal. Oh, the price. So it's $369 for the gimbal by itself, or $459 if you want the new tracking module and the briefcase handle. And I would actually add this handle because I think it really makes a difference in terms of carrying the gimbal more ergonomically, especially if you like to shoot in low or underslung mode a lot. Now, admittedly, this gimbal is quite pricey compared to a smartphone-only gimbal, but this gimbal has a much higher payload, so you can use it with more than a phone or a phone with heavy accessories on it. But you guys let me know what you think in the comments down below. What you think of this gimbal, if you use another gimbal, and if so, which one. Let me know your thoughts. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.